Hi, my name is Ann Knafl. I'm the bibliographer for Religion, Philosophy, and Jewish Studies at the University of Chicago Library. Today I want to use my 10 minutes for the scholar strike to talk about a reading group in prison abolition that I co-organized over the summer. Excuse me. So for a little bit of background, I was working with a graduate student, Matthew Vega. He's a PhD student in theology at the University of Chicago Divinity School. Matt's also been serving as the Hannah Gray Library Grad Fellow in subject librarianship this whole past academic year. And for the summer, Matt proposed that he and I organize a reading group for prison abolition. Matt chose the text and he came up with the basic design for the discussion, and then together we worked on promoting it and organizing and running the meetings. So the first thing that we came up with, or the first issue that we came up with is, of course, trying to bring people into the group to join the group. And so we initially reached out just to individuals and then asked if they were interested, if they knew people who were interested in joining us. And then I also posted on our library intranet about the group. It's called Loop. Excuse me. You can see these are the two texts that we used: Are Prisons Obsolete by Angela Davis and Break Every Yoke by Vincent Lloyd and Joshua Dubler. Davis's textbook was published in 2000 as core text, and Dubler and Lloyd's text book came out this year. So a good, nice bookends. We were concerned with reaching out to people, both that it wasn't going to be too big of a group, that we'd have enough people, but also that it would be people who wanted to engage in good faith. And so we were very clear that this is not a group we weren't debating the merits of abolition, but thinking through it as a topic. And then also we wanted to be very clear that it's a big ask to do all of this work during the summer, and we didn't want to add extra stress to people, and also be cognizant that we're all living through a global pandemic and a global uprising against police, and that we wanted people to not see this as a source of stress. And so we said, as long as you could engage with our goal, our primary goal, then you were welcome at whatever level you felt comfortable participating. We did decide after the first meeting to promote the group through an Instagram account that my colleague Nancy Spiegel and I maintain. Nancy is the bibliographer for history, art, and cinema at University of Chicago. And we were able to get another person to participate through this post and also get some nice information out to the group. This is also a group that Nancy and I post a lot about things like reparations and police divestment, and so we thought this would be a group that would be open to a good faith engagement with the topic. Once we had our group, we decided to start our first meeting with thinking through how to build a community and build some trust. And so given the nature of the topic, also given that there are people in the group who have family who have been incarcerated, who have had their own experiences with, have had a lot of negative experiences with police. And so we wanted to make sure that everybody felt comfortable in this space. And then also people who didn't have those experiences, that they sort of had an understanding of how best to engage with others. So our first meeting was to discuss, Matt and I came up with a draft and we brought it to the group, and then we discussed that draft of sort of a community agreement. And then for our discussion that week, we talked about, or picked a theme of what does a compassionate world look like to you? And we also asked people to share why they wanted to talk about learn more about prison abolition. And then that worked really well for us. And so we used that same model for our next 3 meetings. And I should say we met every 2 weeks, again, to give people time to read and so it not be burdensome. So we would start with introducing ourselves. We would ask and giving a reflection, but also asking people to share something extra about themselves, like what's your favorite breakfast food? And then we would use popcorn. We would say, I'm Anne, I'm the librarian, I like all breakfast, popcorn to Matt, and then so on and so forth. And that helped, I think that helped build the community too. So people would reflect on something from the book. Matt and I would take notes and sort of note the themes that came out of those reflections. And then that also gave everybody a chance to speak at least once. And then we would open up the discussion based on those themes. And then we always save time at the end to think about sort of the practical applied side of it, that this, especially given the nature of the topic, that this was about taking action in some way. So of course, reading and discussing and community building are taking action, but then also how to put these things into practice outside of that group. For our third meeting, we were very fortunate to have the authors join us, which made for a very different group dynamic, but a really wonderful conversation. And they were very open to our commitment to sort of putting things into practice. And then our last meeting, we invited Micah Herskin, who is an abolition activist who worked on the 8 to Abolish campaign, to talk to us about his activism and sort of both the sort of practical side of it and the theoretical side of how he engages with the topic and engages people. And we tried to think too about like how we can keep this conversation going and how we can open our community to a broader group of people. And one of the ways that we did that, sorry, my screen share is not there, is I created a web exhibit page about the group. It's added to an earlier exhibit I did back in 2018. Actually, Matt Vega helped me with this as well, on letters from prison. So there's a page then about the Prison Abolition Reading Group. You can see the pictures of the books we read. And then there's a list of resources, and that includes our plan and guidelines, which we're hoping can be an open source tool for anybody who wants to start a similar group. All right, and I'm going to stop my screen share now. So that covers most what I wanted to cover. I think these are, oh, I know what I was going to say. Sorry, one last thing. I go back to my screen share. You can see the URL for the web exhibit, but also I'll put it in my YouTube information. I created a tiny URL, Chicago Abolition. So you can find those resources. We had a really wonderful experience with this group. We created a lovely community. We had some amazing conversations. And I think it's a really great way to get a conversation started and build a community. And so I hope that these tips and these resources will be of help. I am available if you want to reach out and discuss any aspect of this. And thank you so much for your time.